Welcome back to the Bible in Small Steps, and I'm Jill. We just closed out the seventh trumpet with the Ark of the Covenant, and it appears safe in heaven. Every promise God has ever made, still intact. Chapter 12 does something that Revelation hasn't done yet. It steps back from this whole unfolding sequence of the seals and the trumpet, and it shows us almost a flashback of a deeper story that is behind everything we've read so far. There's a woman, a child, a dragon, and the dragon is waiting to destroy both of the woman and the child. This is one of the most rich, symbolic, dense chapters in the whole book. It's also one of the clearest places where you see the entire Bible storyline compressed in a single vision. So we're going to walk through it next. Right now, a great sign appears in heaven, and a woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, the crown of 12 stars around her head, and she's pregnant, crying out in labor pains. So who is this woman? This is one of the most contested and debated images in all of Revelation. And so we'll walk through it honestly and give you some of the answers. Some of the traditions, Catholic and Orthodox, interpret this as Mary because she gives birth to the Messiah. Other readers see this as Israel, the 12 stars matching the 12 tribes, the sun and the moon echoing Joseph's dream in Genesis 37, 9 through 10, where the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars that represent his family. And others yet read it as the church in a whole, the true Israel, the true church, both Old Testament, New Testament, the people of God brought together in this image. And that this woman gives birth to the Messiah in verse 5, and then later flees persecution and produces the rest of her offspring, who keep the commandments of God and hold the testimony of Jesus. In verse 17, the offspring are clearly ordinary Christians, not a single child. The strongest reading of it, and the one that feels the most consistent, is that she represents God's covenant people across both testaments, Israel, who brought forth the Messiah, and by extension, the church, which continues to bear witness to him. It's not an either-or thing. It's the same people of God seen across the whole sweep of redemptive history. So the second sign appears. It's a great red dragon, 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 diadems. Now, this is going to be the actual royal crown, not the Stephanos victor wreath that we saw with the white riders, with the elders they're victorious. These are going to actually be earthly powers. And so that's what gives people a lot of license, I guess, to think this is going to be 7 nations all coming together with earthly power. And again, that it may be, that's what we have. But again, horns represent power. The heads feel like they represent nations. We can get into the imagery. We just don't know. And so this dragon claims real authority on earth, but it's illegitimate. But his tail sweeps a third of the stars from the heaven, throws them at the earth. And he stands in front of the woman, ready to devour her child at the moment it's born. But then later in the same chapter, verse 9, it tells us plainly who this dragon is. The ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. And this is Genesis 3 stuff finally being named outright. Decades and centuries of biblical narratives with different names and different imagery for Satan and the devil. This is the very serpent that was in the garden. The dragon in Revelation, they're the same figures. So then the woman gives birth to the son, who is to rule all the nations with an iron rod. A direct quotation from Psalm 2:9. It's the clearest messianic psalm in the entire Old Testament. This is Christ. Her child is caught up to God and his throne, while the woman herself flees into the wilderness, to a place that was prepared for her by God to be nourished for, guess what it is, 1,260 days or 3.5 years. It's the same timeline we met in chapter 11. But this is what's compressed here if you're reading along in this. In the space of 2 verses, Jesus moves from Christ's birth straight to his ascension, skipping over his death and crucifixion and resurrection entirely, because it's not part of the whole vision that he's telling in this case. This chapter isn't retelling the gospel events itself. It's showing us the whole spiritual warfare that is happening behind the scenes in all those events. The dragon is attempting to destroy her child the moment he's born, and the attempt fails completely. I think of it, that when you go back, it talks in the Bible about how we're not fighting people. There's powers and principalities. We think we're having this battle on earth. We're fighting it on social media. We're fighting it in the press. We're doing this and we're doing that in this battle that we have. And there is a whole other battle going on we don't even see and has been going on since the very beginning. So war breaks out in heaven. Michael and his angels fight against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels, which are demons, fight back. They don't prevail, and there's no longer a place for them in heaven. So you catch that. They're still in heaven. They still have a place. The great dragon is thrown down. The ancient serpent, the devil, Satan, the deceiver of the whole world, thrown down to earth, and his angels thrown down with him. So this is where we have to be careful about the timing of this, because it can be confusing. If this isn't a future event that's still waiting to happen, then, Satan is still in heaven, still talking to God. But if it's something that already happened in the past, which most people believe, like I said, this is a flashback, that this happened decisively through Christ's death and resurrection, because Jesus himself says in Luke 10:18, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. In John's own gospel recording, Jesus says in John 12:31, right before his crucifixion, now the ruler of this world will be cast out. This vision in Revelation is showing us the whole spiritual battle behind the scenes at the cross. Jesus' decisive defeat is accomplished and is still not pending. So that's why we believe it to be the case. So then a loud voice in heaven declares the victory. Now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser, our brothers, have been thrown down, who accuse them night and day before our God. So the word accuser is worth looking at, because it's often meant in Hebrew, the name Satan itself, the Greek word for devil, does mean slanderer or accuser. And his defining activity right there is accusations standing before God's throne and pointing at us. Hey, did you see what Jill did? She just messed up. She must not be following you, because look at how she messed up. We will see that when we get to Job, that is what Satan is doing. And verse 11 tells us exactly how he's overcome, that they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, for they loved not their lives even unto death. It's not by their own strength, not by their own righteousness, but by the blood of the Lamb. The same thread we've been seeing in every chapter of this study. It's never our doing. It's his blood applied to us that silences the accuser. But verse 12 doesn't let it rest right there in celebration, or I don't know, even pauses for a moment. Woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has now come down to you in wrath. He knows his time is short. So his defeat is total. It's certain. We know how the last page of the book ends. We know how this is going to go. But now he's even more dangerous than ever, because in the time that remains for him, he knows what how little time he has, and he just goes wild, does everything. Both things are true at once. It shows us that in Revelation, it can hold those two things, that he's even more dangerous, but his time is even shorter. I think you see that too, if someone is in a last stand, if a nation is in its last stand, they get more dangerous. And that's what's happening right now. More and more dangerous. And so once the dragon realizes he's been thrown down to earth, he pursues the woman who gave birth to the male child. She's been given the two wings of great eagles to fly into the wilderness to a place prepared for her where she is nourished for a times and a half. Again, 3.5 years, that same reoccurring number. It echoes back from Exodus 19:4, where God tells Israel he bore them on eagle's wings out of Egypt. The same rescuing pattern is applied again. You also think about it in Lord of the Rings, because what saved the hobbits as they tossed the ring into the fire? Eagle wings. That's what saved them. So you get a little imagery right there. But the dragon then spews water like a river out of its mouth to sweep her away. But the earth itself opens up and swallows the floodwaters. And so this is an image of creation itself coming to the aid of God's people against the dragon's attack. I also think about how there was a flood, and the flood, in Noah's time actually stood. And God said, no more floods. No more floods. So the earth itself is protecting. And then, furious at the failure, the dragon goes off to make war at the rest of her offspring. For those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. And that's all of us. So that every believer in every generation who has come after Christ's birth and ascension, the dragon can't touch the child. It can't touch her. So it's going to come after us. And so this war continues against her children, ordinary believers holding on to the testimony at every age since then. What I'm going to sit with this week is 12, verse 11, where it says, they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Where the accusers been at work in your own mind lately? Is he telling you a list of your own failures? Is he telling you that God doesn't love you or you don't measure up? Is he trying to get you to prove to him wrong? And to show, oh, no, see all my works? Proving you wrong. And this verse tells you plainly what silences him. It's not your own effort to prove him wrong, but it's the blood of the Lamb already applied to you. And what I'm going to pray to God about, if you feel condemned, if you hear that whisper of the accuser in your ear, that somewhere in there is telling you what you've done wrong, reminding you every time you have failed. It reminds me I don't have to answer him with my own righteousness or my own explanation. The answer to him is that Jesus' blood already shed is already enough. And so I pray to God to give me courage for the testimony, the way that people have always held it in every generation since then. And what I want to share with someone, if they've been carrying a lot of shame or accusation in their life, you can tell they are listening to the accuser whisper in their ear. It feels like something is not letting go of them. Share with them Revelation.11. It will remind them that the accuser has already lost his case. Not because they're good enough to answer him, but because the Lamb's blood already has won the victory. This hasn't been incredible. A woman and a child caught up to God's throne. This has just been incredible. A woman and then a child caught up to God's throne. A dragon thrown down to earth, but furious and dangerous and still at war with the rest of the offspring, which is us. This chapter pulls back the curtains on everything we've read so far, showing us the real battle that's going on that we can't even see. And so next time we'll meet two more figures. The dragon raises up to carry out that war, a beast from the sea and a beast from the earth. And if verse 11, conquered by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, hit you today, go ahead and let me know what you think about it. You can put comments in the chat channel. You can email me at northwoodsjill@fastmail.com. I used to just have it sent to my own domain, and it hasn't been reliable. So we're switching emails, but you can find it and just click on the link at jillfromthenorthwoods.com. Right at the bottom of the page, it shows all the ways to contact me. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.